Two office mates, same company, same job title, same salary, 30,000 pesos a month. One of them orders Jollibee every single day. Grab food on weekdays, grab rides on weekends. A new Shopee haul arrives at the door every Petsa de Peligro. And somehow, the account hits zero before the 25th. The other one? Brown bag, MRT, money sent home. Building something nobody else can see yet. Here's the only question that matters in this video. Which one of them is actually closer to being rich? And what does rich even mean in real numbers in this country? How much does a household need to earn to sip in the top 10%? What about the top 5? And the top 1%? What does entry into that bracket actually require? Today, we run the real numbers. Walang bola, katotohanan lang. Before the numbers, the sources. Because this is not social media speculation. The income data comes from the PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority, specifically the 2023 Family Income and Expenditure Survey, the most detailed national household income study this country produces. Layered on that is the January 2026 update from PIDS, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, which recalibrated the income class brackets using current poverty line figures. The network data pulls from the Knight-Frank wealth sizing model, the same framework global financial advisors use to benchmark private wealth across countries. Every number in this video traces back to one of those three sources. Think of the Philippines as a 10-step ladder. Each step is 10% of the population. The bottom step is the poorest. The top step is the richest. We are climbing it today, one tier at a time. The bottom step. According to the 2023 FIS from the PSA, the average monthly income for the poorest 10% of Filipino households is 11,940 pesos. For an entire family, not one person, an entire family. That is under 400 pesos a day to cover rice, kuryente, tubig, pamasahe, bilihin. All of it. The Metro Manila minimum wage sits at around 645 pesos a day as of 2026. That is roughly 13 to 14,000 a month, just barely above the official poverty line for a family of 5, which PIDS pegs at 13,873 pesos per month. Nearly half of Filipino families fall into the poor or low-income brackets. And the honest thing to say about that is this: a lot of those households are not failing at money management. The math genuinely does not work on a 400 peso daily budget when a kilo of rice costs 60 pesos and a single jeepney ride costs 20. No amount of strategy corrects that kind of arithmetic. That is not cynicism. That is just what the numbers show. Tier 2, the middle class trap. This is where things get personal for BPO employees, for nurses who came back from a contract abroad, for OFWs who finally locked in a decent deal and started sending money home consistently. The Philippine middle class, using PIDS's January 2026 classification, spans a monthly household income range from roughly 27,000 to 166,000 pesos. That is a wide band, covering about 50% of Filipino families across the lower middle, middle, and upper middle brackets. But crossing into that range does not automatically produce wealth, and a lot of households inside it are running close to empty by the end of the month. The pattern looks like this. A household crosses 60,000 pesos a month, and the spending adjusts upward almost immediately. The studio apartment becomes a one-bedroom condo. The Vios na hulugan gets swapped for a newer SUV. Every barkada trip becomes a yes. Every birthday dinner, an obligation. Every kain tayo from office mates, a line item nobody budgeted for. In personal finance, that pattern is called lifestyle creep. And in Philippine culture, it carries extra weight because the expectations of people around you rise at exactly the same pace as your wage. The FIS data puts average monthly savings for Step 9 households earning around 42,700 pesos at roughly 12,850. Move up to Step 10, the top 10%, averaging 74,622, and that savings figure climbs to about 29,150. The gap between those two groups is not income alone. It is what they do with what is left over. Here is the first real threshold of this video. Entering the top 10% of Filipino households by income requires a monthly household earnings figure of approximately 60,000 to 84,000 pesos. A dual income household, say a nurse and a BPO team leader, each clearing 35,000 pesos a month, would technically qualify as top 10% in this country. Let that number sit for a moment. The picture at this level looks genuinely comfortable from the outside. PIDS data puts the top 5% at a monthly household income between 84,000 and 144,000 pesos, a bracket that covers roughly 4% of Filipino families. Mid-level managers belong here. Dual income professional households, doctors, lawyers, senior engineers, OFW families receiving steady remittances from a spouse in the Middle East or Europe. high-performing supervisors and team leads in Metro Manila's BPO sector. Life at this income level tends to include a car in the parking space, private school tuition for the kids, 1 or 2 domestic trips a year, maybe 1 international trip every other year, Bali or Bangkok, not Paris. But gastos in the upper income steps tends to scale with income. And that is exactly what the FIES data shows. Even households clearing 6 figures a month often carry housing loan payments and car loan commitments that eat into whatever comfort the payslip seems to promise. Being in a top 5% does not mean financial safety. One hospitalization, one job loss, one unexpected family crisis, and the slide back down the ladder can happen faster than the climb up took. Which brings us to the reason most of those slides happen in this country. The Pinoy Trap. The breadwinner. No financial video about the Philippines is complete without this conversation. So here it is, directly. A promotion comes through. The salary jumps to 60, 70, maybe 80,000 pesos, officially inside the top 10%. And then the phone rings. Ate, kayang-kaya mo na naman, di ba? Kailangan lang namin ng kaunti para sa... Or the family group chat lights up with a request to help fund a cousin's wedding. Or the parents who gave up everything for the education now need a new appliance, a medical checkup, school supplies for a younger sibling. The breadwinner burden is real. It runs deep in Philippine culture, and it sits behind a large portion of the reason why Filipinos with genuinely good incomes still struggle to build any lasting wealth. Utang na loob is a value, not a character flaw. But there is a real difference between supporting a family and absorbing the full financial weight of an extended household on one person's paycheck. Financial advisors working in this space often suggest treating family support as a fixed line in the monthly budget, 10 to 15% of net income, consistently given, clearly bounded, not unlimited, not open-ended commitments that keep expanding every time the salary does. Your family deserves real support, and you also deserve a future that does not run on fumes. Yun lang. Tier 4, the top 1%. Here's a number most people came to find. Joining the top 1% of Philippine households by income requires a monthly household earnings figure of at least 150,000 pesos. The officially rich classification under the PIDS framework begins at 277,460 pesos per month and above. That is the top 0.3 to 0.4% of the population. That covers the income side. Now let us talk about net worth, because income and net worth are 2 completely different things. Here is where the numbers get interesting. According to the Knight Frank wealth sizing model, the net worth threshold for the top 1% of the Philippine population lands at approximately 3,171,993 pesos. That is, total assets minus total liabilities, home equity, savings, investments, all of it netted out. And here is where the number gets strange. A basic entry-level condominium in Metro Manila runs between 5 and 6 million pesos. A decent second-hand car costs at least 500,000 to 1 million. Which means someone who owns a modest provincial home, even if they are kulang sa pera every month, could technically clear the top 1% net worth threshold in this country. That is not a loophole. It is a direct reflection of how badly metro real estate values have pulled away from rural asset levels across the country. For context, entering the top 1% in Singapore demands the equivalent of roughly 290 million pesos in net worth. In Monaco, the figure runs close to 720 million. The Philippine threshold is low, not because Filipinos are building wealth easily, because the asset base of most households across this country is extraordinarily thin. The finish line. The income brackets matter, but none of them capture the number that actually changes a household's relationship with money. Reaching the top 10% by income is achievable for a meaningful portion of the people watching this. Dual income couples in Metro Manila, professionals a few years into career growth, OFW households with consistent remittances. But being in the top 10% of earners does not produce freedom on its own. The real milestone looks different. It shows up when Ipon starts working on its own, when investments, rental income, or dividends cover at least basic gastos without requiring another month of hard work to make it happen. That is the actual finish line. And reaching it requires one thing beyond earning more: the consistent gap between income and spending, invested month after month over years. The FIES data shows the 10th income step saving an average of 29,150 pesos per month. Not all of those households put that money to work, but the ones who do are not just maintaining a top 10% income position, they are building the kind of transferable wealth that crosses generations. The families holding generational wealth in this country did not arrive there purely by earning more. Somewhere in the chain, with whatever discarte was available to them, someone converted income into assets: land, business equity, stocks, something that kept growing without requiring daily grind to sustain it. That conversion is the real move. Everything else is just preparation for it. Let's recap. Here is where all four numbers land, side by side. The top 10%, 60,000 to 84,000 pesos per month. The top 5%, 84,000 to 144,000. The top 1% by income, at least 150,000, with the officially rich bracket starting above 277,000. On the net worth side, entering the top 1% demands at least 3.17 million pesos. The top 0.1%, roughly 11.7 million. High net worth individual status, 48 million and above. A circle of approximately 20,000 people in a country of over 100 million. Some people watching this are closer to the top 10% than they realize. Others are not there yet, but now have a map showing what the terrain looks like. Hindi tayo nagbibilang para mag-compare. We count so we can plan. One honest question, and it has nothing to do with your payslip or your net worth. How much is sitting in your sleep at night fund right now? That balance where you close the banking app and do not feel the anxiety. For some households, that number is 50,000 pesos. For others, it is 6 months of expenses. For some, it does not exist yet. And that is exactly where building starts. Drop your number in the comments. If it does not exist yet, type starting now. Mean it. No comparison here. No judgment. Subscribe. We run real numbers, real strategies for real Pinoys building real ipon. Next, the exact ipon to investment allocation on a 30,000 peso wage. The math works. The only question is whether you will run it.